Oh, hi, hey. Nice to see you there. This is a Please Don't Kill Me 1968 Firebird. And what we have here is a neat conglomerate of parts going on. It is looking like the usual, but it is a Turbo 5.3 with a T56. Normally I'm doing automatics. And the funny thing in the back of the car is it has a Nissan S14 chassis, entire rear subframe, diff, control arms, everything. So what this was built to do was be like a pro tourer and drift car and all that stuff. Obviously not a drift car to slam into people continually like the most serious drift cars, but he wants to drift it, race it, and do all sorts of stuff with it. So he's been putting this thing together for about 2 years, hit me up to do a tune on it, see how it is. He bought a turbo from somebody, and it's a little bit small, so that's why the numbers aren't huge. It still made very good numbers, I think, for what it is. I believe it was a billet 7268 made by On3. It was a weird short production run. So that's what's on there. Obviously, the turbine is pretty small. It has a sloppy stage 2. I don't know if it's a Gen 3 5.3. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's capped off at the turbo, horsepower-wise, and it has 80-pound injectors, and it's running a P01 stock Silverado-ish ECU with flex fuel. He's running a single 450 LPH Walbro in the tank, all of the normal stuff, and the tuning was done at like 60% alcohol-ish. We're going to go over the logs here in a minute after these pulls, so you can see how we were doing. He has a AEM True Boost in the car to control boost, and obviously he had a pretty low spring, and this is a small turbine, so we ran into back pressure issues immediately. I couldn't get boost over like 8 pounds with the boost controller completely maxed out. So you'll see that the orange line came out of nowhere, and my shop air assisted us, and I think it took me 25 or 26 pounds of shop air on top of the wastegates to make 12 pounds. It didn't really add any boost going from 22 to 25, so it would peak out at maybe 14 pounds and then fall off to like 12.6 pounds. Still ended up making 600 rear wheel. Here's a quick walk around and some pulls on the rollers, and then we will get to the informatics data logs, dyno pulls after that. Enjoy, have fun, bye. Okay, let's jump straight into this. Here we go. The first hit here was pretty good. Air fuel and everything was decent, and it only made about 3 pounds and 21 degrees. Definitely okay for 70% alcohol. And this made 365 horsepower. So I was like, okay, the wastegate spring's really low, the turbo's pretty small. I think I threw a bunch of duty cycle at the boost controller and we barely made any more boost. Look at that KPA. Oh yeah. And it was definitely had a little bit of fuel in it, that's for sure. And here I kept adding and I jumped right to 100% duty cycle. I was like, let's not screw around. It's probably just gonna be very low. Boom, you can see here the tapering because of the turbine. So 153 kPa max, and then it fell off to 127. Pretty bad. Fell right back off to 3 psi. So it dinked 8 and then fell to 3. So it made peak boost in the 4,000 range, and then about 5,000 it started nosing hard, which is cool because the dyno plot doesn't look that bad for the boost falling off. So I immediately went to shop air. I gave it a tiny bit of shop air, see how it would react. Very similar, obviously, not much more boost than we had. And then I'll just jump right to like 11 or 12 pounds here. And we'll come out a little bit. You can see I go wide open right about there, right about 2,500. As soon as I get the pedal all the way down, it's already a little bit in boost. Not bad. It's definitely... It has some decent punch down low, but it's definitely choked up a little bit on the turbo. But like I said to him, I try not to, I say what I think out loud, and I think sometimes people might be like, oh man, I gotta get another turbo or whatever. So I reiterated to him immediately, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna say a bunch of stuff, I'm gonna talk a bunch of smack out my mouth. Obviously when this car's done, if it's making the power you want, don't do anything. You don't have to do anything because I think the turbo's small. His goal was like 500 horsepower and he left with 603. So he had 100 more than he anticipated. There really is no reason to change out the turbo. Just drive the car. The car's done, drive the car. So that's what I always like to tell people, get the car out and get the car driving. And once you have your experience and you're messing around and having fun, it's pretty easy to do like turbo swap and stuff, later or whatever. So yeah, this would peak out like 178 and then quickly nose down to about 7 pounds. So it would hit about 12 and then come down to about 7, almost half the boost by 6,300. So it seems like there's a lot of spark in here, but that's what it took and what it was happy with. And boost was falling off pretty quickly up top. So it really wasn't that big of a deal. Let's hit this one. 187, 17 degrees at peak torque, and then we ramp it in to carry the power up top. And that's one thing you'll see on the dyno plot, ramping that boost in at the end, definitely, or ramping the timing in while the boost fell off is what kept our power curve from looking like garbage. So here's like one of the final ones we did, just maxing out the turbo basically. I don't know if the turbo would really give us any more if he increased spring pressure quite a bit. And I think another thing you'll see I did is did I scale this tune up or did it not make enough for me to scale it? I'm not sure. Anyway, here we finally tickled about 15 up here, and then it fell off. Boop. I was almost wide open here and it fell off to 177, so it falls right back down. But I do not have, I totally screwed you guys on the thing. I don't have the dyno pulls. I did not recover those the last time I was there, but you can see here the power and torque is pretty good. It's very linear. It's similar to like a big all motor car, if you would. So it's not terrible at all. It's making tons of torque, about 400 foot-pounds at 3,300, and it carries that 400 foot-pounds all the way to 6,500. Falls about 500 foot-pounds. So, that's awesome. And then power is pretty linear too, surprisingly, nosing over a little bit here with that small turbine, doesn't really want to rev. But other than that, I think this was a really cool car, have IRS and actually be, when people are like, I'm gonna bring you a drift car, I don't know if it's gonna look like hammered or if it's gonna be pretty or what. I've seen all of them. So it was neat to see something this out of the box, but familiar. So good result for him. He had a great time. Car made more than what he thought, and everybody had a good day. Thank you. Goodbye.